This is Talking My Walking. I am Rodrigo Ribeiro, and today I'm going to talk about if it is possible to avoid World War III. For those who care about to understand what's going on in the world with a little context, historical context, and depth, um, they know that's more going on than just the Iran Israel war. Is much more than just about the nuclear enrichment. Israel is the unsinkable carrier, American carrier in the Middle East. Which means that, again, like, do you remember Joe Biden when he said that if there was not there was not Israel, we would have to invent one. Okay, Israel was a creation, a British creation, and so that's why we need to understand it. There was the need to have a colony, let's put it this way, because in my perspective, Israel is just a colony. It's just a Western colony. I mean, I can understand that Zionism and Christian Zionism is really bad stuff. Is crazy. Is lunacy. But those are tools of power. And Iran was always that's why Iran was part of the 7 countries in 5 years to take down. And that's how we need to understand it. This war, when people talk about if it's the dog that waves the tail or the tail that waves the dog, that's just, everybody knows who the dog is. I mean, I know who the dog is. The American imperialism and the American hegemony, or the Anglo-American hegemony, needs to control the Middle East. There is the need to control, to end the unsinkable carrier called Israel is necessary. So Israel cannot be defeated. Israel has to be the only country with nuclear weapons, because it has to dominate the region. But not to dominate the region for its sake. It's for the sake of the American imperialism. This is not about Netanyahu. I don't know how to spell the name of this monster. When people say that Putin is a monster, they first should look to this man. But not only, I mean, it's not about a man, because the man goes, another one replaces him. So The problem here, this is part of the fight. The destruction of Iran is part of the fight against multipolarity. Is a fight for the preservation of the unipolarity. And this is why we need to understand it as an imperial war, not as a Israel-Iran war. First, this is a provoked war. This is nobody can accept. No, there is no country that can accept a continuous murder of officials and scientists, high military people and officials, and bombings, and they just expecting to do nothing. Because the negotiations between Iran and the United States were just, it was not about the negotiations. That's why it's meaningless. That's why it's meaningless to, if we try to, we cannot, Trump is just a liar. Trump is a liar, like any other president, like any other American president. You cannot have a president. You do not have a president. At least the ones I can remember, the ones that I had the opportunity to listen to them. They are liars, and Trump is the same. This is not about a negotiation. They don't want to negotiate with Iran. It was just to give them marching orders, which means you do this, or you have to face the consequences. The problem is that the war with Iran, they know, with other problems like the Ukrainian war and the containment of China. This is very problematic because it's another layer of complexity to the problem that they do not know. Nobody knows at this precise moment. Nobody really knows what can come. What will be the outcome of this current situation. So, is the Third World War, or at least a major war, or a direct confront between Russia and China, and in this case Iran and maybe North Korea, against the United States and NATO? Is it possible to avoid? Is it possible to avoid, or what can we do or try to do to avoid it? Especially in Europe, because there will be losers. The ones that are directly affected by war, like Ukraine, which is a territory, and affected directly, is the one that the land and the countries, the people that are directly affected by the bombing, and by all the consequences of hot war, of direct conflict. And they are the first ones. And the second ones, the poor countries, of course, are always affected because the economic, the problems with the food and the energy, the prices of food and the prices of energy, and eventually the shortage of it. So there is the poorest nations and the poorest people that are always affected by it. But after that, the European continent, especially the European Union, the countries, and Europe in general, that are going to be. We are going to be profoundly affected negatively, I mean, by it. I don't know if the major capitals of Europe will be bombarded, will be again transformed into rubble. Nobody can predict it right now. But one thing I believe, if the people, if the European citizenry doesn't stand up against, I mean, we still, I mean, the people that are right now, you know, the Prime Minister of England, of President of France, the Chancellor of Germany, and others, and many others, and of course the European Commission and the Parliament and the Council, the European Council. Who is these people? How can we, I mean, don't we need to do our homework and understand what is at stake, and that we need to also understand that we are maybe, or most probably, the most propagandized, the most the depth of deception that is that goes on, that is going on in our societies, is just beyond the pale. And we probably will believe that we are very smart. Yeah. So, our lives we need to understand that these people, in the name of whom they might, our freedoms, they ate our freedoms. These people are savages. The Russians are savages, of course. Or the Iranians are savages. You go there and check by yourself if that people, or you go anywhere and what you see, we might have more advanced societies in terms of our, that we had more time and we start developing earlier. So therefore our societies are better organized, we have things are functioning. So there is a certain look as a more civilized kind of. But we are people, and war is destruction. War is, that's why the war is so destructive. That the war, for example, the pollution and everything else, that is not the American military forces. They're not accountable. There's nothing. They do not count for the emissions and for everything else. That's just out of the. This is. And we, in this side of the pond, we need to change. We need to change radically. We need to embrace multipolarity. We need to stop this warmongering, because it will come home to roost. The chicken will come home to roost. That's for sure. We are already being hit by the negative consequences of our policies in every sense. Not only the policies of the last let's put it 3-4 years, but the policies that have been since several decades, actually. The policies of first of all, we need to understand that the European Commission and NATO are twin siblings. They are Siamese twins, okay? That's nothing that happens in the European Commission that doesn't have to, that the policies are not crafted to match each other. So this needs to end. I am not against the European Union. I believe we need to be united. The Europeans need to be united. The Europeans need to recognize there are no citizens, superior and inferior citizens in this bloc. We are a very small continent. We need to be united, but united for the good reasons. We need to be united against war. We need to be united against discriminations, which means that the people from the north, the Scandinavians that have been, that are also propagandized, it's incredible. It's incredible. People that have opportunities, citizens that really have opportunities to be educated, and are indoctrinated and instrumentalized as, it's incredible. But the Germans this mentality, the mentality of people that have this idea of superiority, that they are the workers, and the people of the South, like me, the Portuguese, the Spanish, the Greeks, the Italians, these people, these are the pigs, you know, but basically the ones that once were called pigs. Okay, they just want to have a nice life. I mean, that's not that I believe that everything that is going on that's a lot of wrong. That's many things wrongs with these countries. I'm sure about that. But that's a lot of other things wrong about the other countries. What we need is to be united in order to have a strategy that is for the survival of us all, not the destruction of us all, in the international playing ground, which means that we need to have our geopolitical role has to be one of cooperation and strategic assured safety, not assured destruction. We cannot say that Americans are not our allies. They can be our allies. And you know why they are not our allies? Because the Americans, or maybe the Anglo-American imperialists, they do not want allies. They do not tolerate allies. They only tolerate vassals. And they knew that they needed a European Union. They could use the idea of a European Union, a unified Europe that would not fight, the countries would not fight each other for a prosperous, and they needed that idea, which is a good idea, of course, but they needed it in order to facilitate them, facilitate the United States, the control over the European policies. So they can be crafted together. NATO policies and the European Commission policies, they can be dictated by the same imperialist control. You might think that I'm crazy or that I just read or listen to the wrong people or whatever. But the thing is, we have no interest at all in defending what is going on now by taking a position, by trying to. There is two things that can happen. What happened in Syria, that they caved, Russia and they caved and they allowed it to be destroyed, and Assad to be taken out. That I don't know if Russia and China can afford that to happen. You know, I don't know. I'm not sure about that. Because Iran is a very important, a very important piece of the puzzle to build for the BRICS and for the multipolar world. So I don't know, because if Iran, in case the Iran is destroyed, there is a huge setback for the multipolar order and for BRICS as well. It doesn't mean that the imperialist hegemony, the American hegemony is going to be restored, but it's a huge setback. So Don't ask me for the possibilities of a World War III in terms of percentage, because maybe nobody knows at this point in time. But that's a lot at stake, and for us, the Europeans, we do not benefit even with the destruction. Imagine that Iran can be destroyed. The Americans just go in, the Americans just start bombing, and maybe even they can nuke, which would be a huge mistake, I believe, but I don't know. These people are, besides all the interests, all the geopolitical and geoeconomic interests, they are crazy. Because they are not. That's the problem. It's a problem of power and control and wealth, but it's also a problem of madness. That's why this is a very crazy moment in the. This can become irreversible, an irreversible. We are probably paving an irreversible way into the Third World War. That's why we need to do our best to organize. And again, I have to say it, we do not have enough the radical left, not the social democrats and the radical left needs a place at the political table. We need to think, we need to understand, we need to overcome the prejudices and start reading about the left political, not write history as well, read history as well, but there is the need to just understand that we have a lot of prejudices against, because they have been planted on us. We have been colonized with them. The propaganda, the thickness, the barrage of propaganda has been so pervasive for so many decades that my generation and the generations after mine are totally. There is very few people that understand the role of the left, and then there is the divisions and all the rest. But anyway, we need organizations, movements, political parties on the radical side of the left, which means anti-capitalist and anti-imperialist and for people for a class-less society. But we need to understand, and that we have that a role as as anti-war people. That's the role, and we need to be also internationalists. Not because we do not want to love our countries, or we don't want to have sovereignty. It's just because we want to make our to be more sovereign that we need to be internationalists. Okay, we need to be internationalists in order to make sure that our sovereignty is safe, which that most countries do not have any sovereignty now, like my country. What is the kind of sovereignty that that Portugal has, or other countries, especially the smaller ones, if the main policies, if the macroeconomic policies, if the monetary policies, if the fiscal policies, and all the major policies, and the war policies are dictated by not internationalist, but by centralized power in Brussels. It's not an international power. This is nothing to do with internationalism. This is about the concentration of power, the power to dictate the marching orders from a centralized, from a dictatorate, from in our case, from Brussels, and not only from Brussels and from Frankfurt as well, from the ACB. And who is these people that we put there? No. You know the kind of people that they are supposed to be experts in what? Experts for in the empire. That's what Mario Draghi is, or what is. That's what Mario Draghi is, and what is a woman that is now, which is her name, or von der Leyen, or many others. They are tools for the Western imperialism. They have nothing to do. They do not want peace. They do not care about us. They do not care about prosperity. They will do anything and everything in order to make possible to not let the hegemony, the American hegemony, go down the drain. That's their role. They have a role. They are playing a role. That's their duty. Their duty, the duty of these people, is not for the average European citizen, nor for the sake of their own countries. It is about, of course, they are protecting the oligarchy, and there are connections, and they want to preserve they want to make sure that the oligarchy, the German oligarchs and plutocrats, and the British and the French, they want to make their assets safe. And make safe, they will have a future. You know, that's what they want. They do not care about the future of ourselves as citizens, because even if everything is destroyed, no, for as long as they imagine, that's where the insanity comes from, they can win the war in the end. They can preserve the wealth. They can come again on the top and get to control whatever is left, you know, and then they can use us again as useful tools or useful idiots to rebuild it again. And this is what we need to understand. Nothing of this is about patriotism. Nothing of this is about sovereignty. Nothing of this is about freedom and democracy. Nothing of this is about values to defend humanity, to enhance humanity. It's just the opposite. It's about destruction for raw power. And that's why we need to to I mean, we need to have a different approach. I mean, we cannot, because, you know, as everybody knows, there was a recent attack, really, inside Russia, in strategic sites, and everybody knows that this is not done by Ukrainians themselves. They need the intelligence, they need the Starlink, they need they need all the technology, all the logistics, and also the hardware to make it happen. So what it means, it's that we are always escalating the war, and we are allowing the militarization of Europe. Can you imagine 5% of the GDP for NATO? I mean, is it acceptable? Or do we need just get the Americans out? Let's think like that. Just get something done with the Russians do not want to take over. It would be, if you go back and see the documents and read the documents, the Russians, since the demise of the Soviet Union, that they tried to approach the West. They wanted to have good relations with the West. They wanted to be part of the West because it makes sense historically, culturally. It's of course you can say that there is a huge part of Russia that has different cultures. It is not like Europe. Of course, that's true, but it doesn't matter. We need and deserve to have good relations with Russia. We need to have a strategic agreement with them to assure our safety, shared safety. We don't need war with the Russians. Should be part of the past. Do not people remember that Napoleon went to Russia with 500,000 men, and when he came back in Vilnius, there were 5,000. Yes. Don't you remember what happened in the Second World War? Of course, it was a huge human toll for the Russians and the peoples of the Soviet peoples. But in the end, they were the ones that really defeated the Germans, the Nazi Reich. Okay? So, this time, if the war really, if you want to escalate, if we allow them, they are not our dealers. They are our killers. Okay? They are the ones that do not care at all if they have to sacrifice us. And that's the point. These people do not care about that. They will tell us whatever stories. They will make up. They will lie. They will manage perception to manufacture consent in all possible ways to try to keep enough of us deluded in order that they can do, because because this is about deception. If we could see through and we could understand the whole truth that would be possible for us, we would kick them out of power. But the problem is, that is the real problem. That we cannot, it's very difficult due to the propaganda barrage and also many weapons of mass deception that they have available to many of us to understand the reality. Even if it's very difficult to understand it as a whole, but at least enough to resist. But that's what we need to do, to resist them. Because what we see in Ukraine, that's the same in the Middle East, it's the same about Taiwan, it's the same everywhere. It is the United States of America. You know, when you just have a paper, you say, okay, we want to take down 7 countries in 5 years. No, it's just for them. It's as easy as that. They just come up that we need to do it because it's in terms of geopolitics and geoeconomics, it is a strategic. We need to. This is essential for our geostrategic interests, and they do not care how much that costs for the American citizenry or for the American economy. I'm not talking about the debt. That is a different problem, because most people I see talking about the debt, the deficit problem, and the burden for the American taxpayer. That doesn't work like that. That's not how the economy works. That's not how the money creation works. And there is a problem, of course. There is a burden, of course. But has nothing to do with the money, with the creation of money. Or it has to do with the creation of money, but in other ways. Who are the beneficiaries of the creation of money? Who are the ones that are really the cui bono with the credit creation, and the so-called QE policies that we have been. It was us, you know. No, again. Then who was it? The warmongers. Who are the warmongers? There is no such thing as a banker, a bankster that is not a warmonger. They are the financial sector. It always benefits. That's why we need to address these questions. We cannot just, do we want a third world war, or do we want to resist it? In which side do we want to be? Do we think that then we have a third world war, and then we can imagine romantically an idea that then there will be another order, another world order, and then there will be the reconstruction there will be then another opportunity for the humanity to recreate civilization and blah 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 blah. I don't know. The last time there was a world war, it ended with the drop of 2 nuclear bombs, okay? By the American empire, okay? That was the only country so far that dropped nuclear bombs into major cities of a country that was already defeated. There are many accounts that tell that that there was no need for that. That was just done by the American imperialists already, that wanted to show the American strength to the Russians. And then they didn't care to kill that many people and destroy 2 major cities in Japan for the purpose of show off. No, the layers of deception are so, I mean, it's so, it is the major problem for our understanding of reality, for the possibility to have a holistic comprehension of reality, an understanding that goes beyond the propaganda, the layers of propaganda that we have to live with, because it's not possible. That's the problem. What we need is to train ourselves to see through it. That's the only possibility, because it's not to go. The barrage of propaganda is not going to go away. So, Iran, we do not know yet if the Americans are going to be involved. It's going to get involved in directly. I mean, involved. Of course, they are involved. But if there will be the direct bombardment from the American side, it depends. I think it depends. I mean, it depends on. I think it depends on what the damage caused by the Iranians in Israel. I think that is, if it becomes kind of unbearable for the Israelis to take the damage, it might require the American intervention. Okay, and I don't know if there is enough resistance in the American political environment and political elites to resist it. The neoconservatives and the warmongers and the AIPAC influence is so pervasive and deep in the American politics that I think at this moment, and again without the movements that we do not have, that there are no unified organizations and movements with a vision for America and a vision for the world that is really pro-peace. It's beyond the idea of the great power competition. The great power competition, it's partially, it makes sense partially, but it's not a law. It's not an absolute law. It can be, if we are not able to, but depends again, all depends on the popular will. But the popular will only works organized and unified and and have a comprehensive understanding what is sovereignty, what is the role of our country, in this case of America, in what should be the role of America in the world, you know, what kind of pardon, what is the American role, the international organization. We need international order for based mostly in cooperation. The less secrecy, the best. The less secrecy, the best. We do not need secrecy. Secrecy, it's only to protect the villains. It's only to protect the plunderers. Okay? The scammers. You know? The scumbags. Do not forget about that. It's not to protect sovereignty. We don't need that to protect our sovereignty. That's the imperialist understanding of the world. That's the imperialistic understanding of the world. That's exactly what we need to overcome, to overrule. So this war can be or could be the beginning of I mean, many people already say that we are already in the Third World War. Okay, that's fine to me. But this war could be the trigger, the really trigger for the Third World War. And we should not be happy about that. None of us. Those that believe that let's destroy the evil, let's destroy the regime, the Iran regime. Let's destroy, because it means it's, you know, let's destroy. No, don't think that our rage is the Israel regime a good regime, a humanitarian regime, just because there's democratic are they democratic elections? What are, by the way, what are democratic elections? What is that? That's most people, even anymore, most people don't bother even to vote because they are so delusioned with this despicable form of governance that we allowed to be hijacked by sociopaths and psychopaths and megalomaniacs and you know, all the best of our societies. Just look at Trump. This man is a con man. He just says whatever. It doesn't. I mean, I don't even know if he understands that it's the bullshit that comes out of his mouth. Is he stupid? No, it's not totally stupid. But he's not a smart person as you can believe he is, and he doesn't understand so many things. I mean, and this is the people that so many are again and again and again. What does it mean, make America great again? It's meaningless, you know. Making America great again is first and foremost that Americans need to see themselves as just one people among almost two, or one nation or one country, just among almost 200 countries that exist in the world, bigger or smaller. Why should the Americans believe that they are, where does it come from? That Americans should believe they are better than the other ones. One, we can see that is kind of the opposite. The average American right now is, in many terms, below the average of the citizens everywhere in the world. In many aspects, almost stupidified, imbecilized, made totally dependent on convenience. There is no identity. Americans are just about bragging. There's nothing left but bragging. There's a lot of weaponry, there is a lot of power, that's for sure. But they have to use others. It's not about their bravery. That's what Americans should understand. They are not brave. They are using others. That's why they need proxy wars. They are always using others people's territories. They need to destroy and use the other people's to make their dirty job work. So, if you are an American and you don't understand it, that you are an equal, you are just you are part of humanity. There's nothing special about you or about your nation. By the way, as a melting pot, America is a cultural melting pot, so made of so many nations and peoples, of so many origins. What you should respect, at least show some respect, is for the peoples that were originally not the owners, because this was about ownership, but the ones that were living in those territories and were destroyed by this imperialist mentality, because it is this disease that becomes a disease. It's a cultural disease that is a disease. It's an epidemic, because it's a disease that is it's a kind of a parasite that affects everybody, poor and rich, and that's why it's so pervasive and so dangerous and so destructive. And we need to overcome this kind of mentality. Otherwise, we will be the victims. And this time, there is the possibility that this can. I'm not saying that it's going to be like that, but we need to be. For me, the precautionary principle is a very important principle. It's not because we should use the precautionary principle to stop everything, no. To stop innovation or to stop this, no, of course not. But we also cannot just dismiss it. Whether we believe because the ones that are supposed to be our leaders, they are mad. They are not major people. They are not we believe they can be rational, or they can be some sort of sense, of common sense. No, do not think like that. That's why we need to throw them out. The European Union needs to be redone. I believe in European Union, but I'm done with this European Union. The way these institutions were designed and hijacked, they are irreformable. We need to rethink this project. But I believe in the European project. There are too many small countries that we cannot really, I do believe in the unity, but it has to be democratic, truly democratic. Truly democratic, which is not the case. We are living in a dictatorship. With Christine Lagarde, in the ACB, von der Leyen, and all the rest, and this the Antonio Costa, and Mr. Antonio Costa, a socialist, okay, a so-called socialist in the in the European Council. Yes, I can see how independent these people are. What they have in mind is the interest of my interest in mind. When they are crafting crafting the policies, or whatever they do, they are thinking about me. No, that's the. They just this guy called Rodrigo, and so many others like him. That's those we are thinking about when we are crafting these policies. That's exactly that we care about them. I mean, you need to be very. It needs to be. We need to be in a very delusional state in order to believe that these people are there to take care of us. They don't. They have bosses, and their bosses are not are the top echelons of the world oligarchy, especially the Western oligarchy and plutocracy. The plutocrats and the oligarchs especially of the Western world. Okay, that is all for today. Thanks for listening. I will be back soon.